Hello and welcome everyone to today's Data Science Career Workshop. These sessions, as we are aware, are an integral part of Learn, Earn and Return, the program we offer at AlmaBetter. We conduct these sessions every week where we invite folks from the data science community to connect with data science enthusiasts like you guys, exploring what data science looks like on the ground for working as any of the roles that comes under the broader umbrella of data science. It's also a very good opportunity for you young learners to ask your burning questions to our panelists that we have here as an industry expert. I am your host, Ekta Maheshwari. I work as a lead data scientist with Accenture Baltics. It's an integral part of Europe where we help clients build sustainable solutions in today's data-driven business world. Along this, I'm a data science educator at AlmaBetter, where I teach and I coach aspiring data science enthusiasts like you guys to build a career in this domain. That being said, let's welcome our guest for today and a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Himanshu Goyal. Hey, Himanshu, how is it going for you Saturday afternoon?
It's quite hectic today, but I'm glad I got time to talk to you.
I'm glad to. So great to have you here. So, to all our learners, our attendees, Himanshu is a data science leader with more than 8 years of hands-on experience in the field of analytics, leading diverse teams and working on software development and deployment in the field of fintech and insurance. He is currently associated with ACO and has an immense experience working for early stage startups and for Fortune 50 organizations and has delivered state of art ML and AI products. He happens to also run an Instagram page where it's called Art of DS that shares a lot of fun content about DS, ML, AI, all of these areas. You should go check them out. All right. Before we get into our conversation, very excited to be having a conversation with you today, Himanshu, about data science, what it is, where it's come from, the past, present, and future of this emerging discipline.
Thank you, Ekta. Thank you for such a warm introduction.
Right. All right. So before we delve into the disciplines, I would like to find a bit about you. What got you into data science, and what's the story of how you got it in the first place? What were your struggles? How did you solve them?
I think it was quite a long journey. It's been 9 years into the industry. So I'm from completely non-tech background. I'm a chemical engineer by graduation, right? And after the college, I started working with Reliance as a research scientist only. So I was working more towards R&D in chemical than data when I started my journey. But while working there, I used to do some crunching on the numbers, but that was basically a bit on stat side, a bit on empirical formula side. It was not completely into analytics or data science. So a very fine day, I was just going through the literature for chemical engineering for a particular problem statement when I stumbled upon a research paper which was written back in 2011 on support vector machines utilization in oil and gas. So
Okay.
that kind of intrigued what this new field is all about. Uh,
Hmm.
yes, were not that kind of a buzzwords around that time, and
That's great. Right.
so it was more of a on hands learning. When I get into the project, evaluated a new technique, I coded it up, it worked well for the company as well. So at the end of the project, I realized that this is something I really want to do, and not much interested in core chemical engineering. So I jumped the ship back in 2015 when I started my data science journey fully.
That's nice. That's a good journey, I would say. When we started out, it wasn't a buzzword or it wasn't something that we aspired to be, but we just stumbled upon, and now we are here. Right. So, Himanshu, what do you work on these days? Is it more, diverse or towards the tools? Do you work towards the platforms, any languages? What are you currently working on?
Okay. So when I started data science, because there was no coding background, right? And
Hmm.
our programming was much easier to learn because it's basically English language, right?
Right, right.
So even I started my career as coder in R programming because it has good amount of support from the people as well. They are statistical
Correct.
guys written a lot of good packages for the programming language. So R programming was my go-to tool initially. I used to do all the analytics as well as modeling in R programming. But eventually, when I moved into a startup kind of environment, it felt like R is not enough because R works well when you want to work on batches or want to work offline. But
Hmm.
instead have to put your solution in attachment to the website as well. So from the backend perspective, I think I moved to Python after 2 to 3 years, where I can write the Flask APIs or any kind of an endpoint through which the website can utilize the machine learning in real time. So
Correct, correct.
that kind of a difference has happened. Now I think a lot of jobs are into Python than R programming, but I have seen a lot of people still just working with R in at least in fintech and insurtech world.
Hmm. Right. So, how much do you think the data science can be accomplished with currently available, like the code-free drag and drop software tools, or do you think we should still focus on the, the understanding of the language and then trying to code it out?
I think uh, though a lot of platforms have come into picture right now in last 2 to 3 years, they have gained a lot of fame as well. It has its own perks, I would say, because if we think from a company's perspective, these tools have led them to adopt AI in early stages, because
Hmm.
they might not be sure whether the POC that they are thinking of will actually work. So no point in hiring a person to do this job and then firing if it doesn't work out, right?
Correct, correct. Yeah.
This is kind of becoming a POC tool, go-to tool for the companies for early adoption. And from a business or a product point of view, this tool gives them an immense amount of power to get uh, good analysis, at least fast analytics of the data, right? So
Hmm.
for I think it's a very useful tool. But on the other hand, I don't see data scientists using these tools a lot because one, they are not very scalable. Second, they do not have that much of a customization that your Python
Correct.
code gives you, right? So
Right.
you play around with the data, and for that you need that kind of flexibility that you can do anything with the data.
Correct, correct. So you still need to hone your coding skills to always look at, because data science is all about edge cases. It's never going to be straight, one-stop solution. So it's always going to be, some edge cases or some customizations that might always be required. And I not sure yet that has come into picture, but auto MLs might struggle there still. Yeah.
Point is, even though you can automate the machine learning process, the modeling, the parameter tuning part, but still you need expertise in feature engineering, deployment, or
Hmm.
analytics, your exploratory analysis, right? That's where the major, that should be the focus of the current data scientists to upskill, because ML still can be learned on the job or it can be still automated, but rest of the things are also equally crucial to learn.
Correct. I agree. I agree. All right. So, Himanshu, I think we would agree that as a community, we are still on the path of having a standard definition around data science. What is data science, and the domain. But on the other hand, the companies have collectively managed to demarcate the roles and struggles to define how it differs from a data analyst, how a data engineer differs from a machine learning engineer, right? So we do have a clear, not that clear, but still a clear demarcation of what the different role expects out of you. So let's say it's 2025. It's 2022 now, but let's say we timestamp 2025. What does a data science role look like then? What do you think? Will the fundamental skills remain the same? Will we use the same titles, or will we start using AI monkey or something in that sort? What do you think, it might go?
I think from the future perspective, it might possible that some of the manual tasks might become automated through the tools, but the at the same time, the data scientist would evolve into much more strategic role, because at the end of the day, the role of the data scientist is to solve a business problem through data.
Correct.
Modeling is just a way to do that. So I think from the role perspective, it's going to be same. You need to get into the business side. You need to understand
Hmm.
how to get the insights, or how to change the business or optimize the business through data. That would
Correct.
be the most important skill going forward, given a lot of new careers have been grown through data science. One of the upcoming is MLOps, which is kind of related to DevOps, but
Hmm.
this is only into productionization of machine learning models. And I think similar kind of such roles will also will start getting evolved from the data science field, because it's a very vast field, and a single person to gain all the skills is kind of challenging for students as well, right? So
Correct.
I think from if a person wants to get into data science, apart from the basics, they should start learning from the business, the challenges of the business, the challenges of the
Hmm.
self, so
Right.
that the right use cases for the business.
Right, right. Since you've talked about so much about the AutoML and no code tools and all, uh, sure, they're becoming increasingly popular. Many people believe that the advances in these tools will eventually replace our work. Is there any validity to this claim? Like when we say eventually replace our work, I mean, like you mentioned that the manual operations or the manual tasks would still be automated, but do you think altogether this could be achieved, since we are the ones to build the tech and tech are the ones to take our job? Do you think we will end up in a position where we could also customize to our needs?
Okay, let's take an example. Let's say, let's forget data science. Let's talk about a simple software which is replacing manual
Hmm.
in a factory, right?
Correct.
But you need an expert of that software to run the software, right? It's not like you can give that software in someone else's hand who doesn't know shit about that, and
Hmm.
then expect a better output, right? Even though these new platforms come into the picture, still data scientists are required to run these softwares, to run data over these platforms. One more use case that I see is data pipelines are not standardized across the a lot of companies yet. Your
Correct.
database keep designed,
Hmm.
data keep on coming, right? But if you have a standard pipelines, you will not be able to harness the information or new information that you are getting from the customers.
Hmm.
So scientists will have to keep on checking the pipeline health, keep on updating them in order to in order for other people to utilize these platforms for the data, right? So I don't
Correct.
see the science going anywhere at least 5 years down the line.
Very, very nice analogy that I liked. I think that's exactly what we should do when we try to compare and we try to predict our any future roles. The best thing we can do is look at the other similar fields, like you just mentioned. Technology has disrupted all of them. When we go back to say accounting, or we go back to web development, there has been technology. Almost all of the work that is done in this field is has been replaced, but there is always a growing demand of I would say accountants or auditors. Like I used to use ClearTax for my accounting. It's a great self-service product, I would say, at a very fair price. Even though I could do my taxes on my own, there would be still so much I didn't understand. And I like then would currently work with an accountant or a CA because they have a specialized knowledge about my exemptions, about my credits, about my investments. Even though the tools do this on like on their own exist, I would say there is still a need of an expert to help us out. Like I view the data science in a similar way. Like even if the tools anyone any tool could help us with the analysis, issues will rise. Like will they be comfortable interpreting the result? uh, because there is human intent, there is human touch to every insight that we take out from the data. So will they be able to understand the limitations of the models or the weird results that they're getting? Like I doubt that. Similarly, like for the web developers or the other the IT digital marketing or the all these tools, there are graphic user interfaces, right, that allow you to build a website on your own. And they do look pretty good, I would say. But web developers are still in high demand. Like making unique combinations or customizations to websites is still difficult. You still cannot do it with drag and drop and those pretty website tools. I think companies have significantly more control over these websites and products as compared to when they are done through their own stack. If you do it by your own development, you have a more better control as compared to you buying, say, a tool. Say we get a lot of ads around Monday.com. It's something to replace Jira. But again, you would be more comfortable if you had a business in a garage, that would be something that you go with. But if you are somebody for a Fortune 500 companies, these automation tools will be very limiting at some point of time. So for but better, I would say, or for worse, data science is very much about these unique analysis, these edge cases, these nuances in the data. Like it would be great, auto ML tools and all of these might be great, but it will still require the eyes and the brains of a real data science experts or an experience in this matter,
Right.
right?
Uh, the companies can build the first version using these auto ML products, right?
Right.
The utilization or the impact of data science or machine learning on their businesses. But at the end of the day, they would want a data scientist to come in and own this project, right? Either
Correct.
they utilize their own tech stack or they utilize the automated tools. That's fine with them. At the end of the
Mhm.
day, be able to create more impact than they have already done, right?
Correct. Absolutely. Like, in fact, new tools could make data science work more valuable. In fact, like tools that allow you to explain insights more easily to stakeholders would be godsend. Because on an everyday basis, you deal with multiple stakeholders. Like, there might be technical folks that you need to get into the integrities of what you actually developed. There might be business folks that you need to explain what you did. So, these insights from these tools would be godsend. But like, while I don't think new technologies will diminish the need of data scientists, I do think that the role of the data scientist will probably change. Like you mentioned earlier, like it would be more towards the strategizing of the things, or rather than investing large amounts of time that we do right now in training the models, a task that that could be taken up by the auto ML pretty easily. I think data scientists in the future will be spending more time on focusing on the exploratory analysis or explaining how their models create value to the business, or implementing these models, like something closer to what a machine learning engineer does, or all of these consultants do. So I think that would be more inclined towards the strategizing of the solutions. Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. So just about everyone believes that data science is everywhere. It should be part of almost every company that at this point of time. Be it insurance, be it fintech, be it just somebody who's dealing with a grocery store in the in a suburb. So it's a clear way to find value in the business. When we think about the future of data science, or for data scientists that are trying to step into the shoes today, or people who are in schools. So, what type of skills you think they should adopt or prepare for the future?
Uh, I think the basic necessity skill that you need is being curious about a lot of things when you are working in a.
Hmm.
So sometimes what happens is the stakeholders take certain assumptions and have their own opinions about a particular thing, but validating that through data is something that's our task to do, right? So
Correct.
you won't get your hands dirty in validating those hypotheses until you are curious about that. I'll give you an example. I was when I started off in machine in fintech and insurtech industry, people say
Hmm.
that particular region of India is very bad for business without even doing the business there, because that's what the experience says. But I have realized that when they started doing business in a much better way, much optimized way, the
Hmm.
states or cities also become profitable for you, right? So you are challenging those hypotheses through data, right? And
Hmm.
as a data scientist, or if you want to get into this field, I think curiosity is something that you need to skill for. You need to gain that kind of attachment with the data as well.
Hmm.
College, I think more goes into fundamentals of data science and machine learning, which is back in maths. Uh,
Hmm.
is quite an important task, because I seriously sometimes I read a research paper, I feel like these equations doesn't even make sense to me, what they are writing, what are the
Right.
notations. Those kind of become a bouncer for you if you don't have that background. I
Hmm.
A lot of people from different backgrounds are getting into the field. May it be a CA, or may it be a person who
Right.
experience in engineering, right? So
Hmm.
I think some kind of basic skills in mathematics or statistics will help you to go a long way in this field.
Right, I agree. I 100% agree. Like I am the first one to actually sit with my friends and rant about what exactly did Lagrange's theorem do. क्या होता मैं Fourier नहीं पढ़ती तो like it's fine only, right? Like I am the first one to rant, but when we look at the data, it's all about patterns. And if had we been learning maths in a better way, in a fun way, I think it would have been making much more sense to me right now, and almost everything that I see right now looks like a equation to me. So that's fun. That's like तारे ज़मीन पर वाली चीजें दिखती है, but but it's the how it is, I would say. But yeah, just to add on your points, a curiosity definitely makes sense, and learning maths, of course, is the fundamental. I would say, other than learning maths, it would be more around learning the science of the domain. Like there are now you can actually apply data science to every domain that we've established, right? So it's more of a understanding the domain better. Like I just had a conversation with one of our students, Naveen, and he happens to come from a mechanical background. Now he being a fresher is, just because he studied data science doesn't mean he starts looking out for an IT company. That, like, the thought process made so much sense to me when he said that I actually want to just look into or focus more on the the engineering side of the things, where people actually use these tools every day. Maybe I just come up with a a model or something that can help them understand when will their tool falter, and before any downtime happening, I could help them, and they could do their preventive measures. Like, that's such a nice thought to understand in the first place, and actually understand. And he's like, I am very confident about, I know how that tool works, I know its life cycle, I know what would prevent what. So if I know that, and to add on that a data science layer, imagine what wonders he can do. So that's absolutely nice to see. Like, other than these, if you understand domain, like, now all right, I do not have any domain, I'm just out of a fresh graduate or something. So then understand what are the industries that might still need data science to be an added level. Like, say there are a lot of climate issues happening around, or the ESG issues happening around. Why don't we look into that? Why don't we get into delve into the domain and understand how it's performing, or how it's blooming out, and then help understand how can data solve the issues for them. So being a data scientist, do not think about, I need to start coding, I need to start, Python padna hai, R padna hai, rather than doing that, just try to understand what are the problems that arise in the domain, and then understand what can I do to help them, rather than, just going by a roadmap of, how it's supposed to be done. And, that's how, these are the skills I need to hone. You Google it out, you're going to find 100 skills required to be a data scientist. Need not necessarily you hone everything, right? Even if you start with something and you have a knack for something, you might get into the other domains,
Definitely,
right?
you are absolutely right. Because what I've seen is people jumping into the field and then jumping into any of the domains
Hmm.
where job. But I feel like from a company's perspective, evaluate two people: one with the data science skills, one with data science skills plus some experience in the business side from the same domain, right? The company,
Correct.
those people who have some background in the domain. Be-
Hmm.
People realize that machine learning is just a mathematical thing and we can do it without even knowing what's the data about. And
Right.
that's one of the major learnings that I've seen in last 5 years at least. Because initially even my thought process was around just get the data, do EDA, do the
Hmm.
modeling, with it,
Hmm.
right? But in couple of companies, I have felt like when I presented this to the stakeholders, they are asking me questions how this model is working, and then they are asking me what are the important aspects or important hypotheses that you came across through the data, right? And
Hmm.
making those hypotheses, I felt like they already knew about it. Ki
Hmm.
these hypotheses already exist. What's new that you have bought on the table, right? So
Correct.
you have to understand where they are, and then you have to build on top of it. So you need to understand the business at the end of the day. If you start doing it on the early stage, or if you have some experience in a particular domain, try to figure out the use cases in that particular domain, because
Hmm.
that knowledge going to help you in making better models.
Right, right. So beyond coding, beyond maths, beyond statistics, I think you should get into a field that you're interested in that is not pure science based. So, there are a lot of different, huge application investment fields that are happening. Learn more about the domain, get deep into the domain, understand what use cases you can, actually look for, and then try to, so over the period of time, we've seen logistics is one of the issues that are still prevalent across the world. And just because of poor logistics, it's now affecting the global warming or all of the different issues that are happening in the environment. So now imagine, how do you do this solution in a sustainable format? Like, if, say, suppose we order every day from Zomato or Swiggy. Now, if we just happen to optimize their route, how better would our life be? Rather than getting the food in 30 minutes, we would just get it in 20, or maybe, the nearest. So it's just all about the optimization and a win-win situation for both the customers as well as the company. Like, it's a win for the Zomato partner as well, the Zomato itself, and also us. So overall, I think it's about understanding what is the issues around happening, and then trying to get into and delve into, how can I solve it?
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
sustainability is again a good issue that is coming across the companies across country.
Hmm.
So I was talking to this one guy from the fashion side. He was working for one of the apparel companies. So initially they had the problem statement of recommending products based on what the user is looking at on their website.
Correct. Hmm.
So they are working on a database product where they can recommend more sustainable clothing in as an alternate to what you are seeing on the website. In that,
Okay.
promoting the sustainable products that reduces the carbon footprinting of manufacturing, and
Hmm.
in return it helps the global warming as well. So
Hmm.
kind of new use cases are coming in, but
Hmm.
thing is you have to understand the domain first. You have to get into what are the new use cases that are coming into the picture, And then if that excites you, definitely go for that jobs.
Right, right. Like, I think the bottom line here is look into the domain. If that excites you, you are there, you are halfway there, and then, it's just the tools and the engineering side that is, yet to be done. All right, Himanshu. So, we understand that data science is furnishing its services in all the sectors of the industries, whether it be healthcare, insurance, finance, education, business, or anything else. So, which industry or which field do you think data science would have the most impact now and maybe as well in the future?
I think in the last 5 years, majority of machine learning or data science impact has happened in the section of robotics, your self-driving cars, automobile
Hmm.
industry is behaving is going through a drastic change altogether because of the driving cars or the cabs, self-driving cabs. So these technologies are not perfect yet, at least not for India, but a lot
Hmm.
of work is still required to make these technologies perfect. So I think in next 4 5 years there will be a major change or major requirement of data scientists in the field of computer vision, your audio analysis. So these are certain things which I feel like are not touched upon a lot, and
Interesting.
going forward there will be much more requirement in these fields for the data scientists.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I think it's just going to, in fact, there are a lot of times where we were just waiting in for the last 2 years for a vaccine to come up, and half of the half of the role was, of course, a majority of the role would be from a pharmacist end, or a researcher's end to develop the vaccine. But on the other hand, the skeleton work was actually done by the data folks, and trying to help them understand how did they perform in every test, every clinical trial, or every other different experiments that were done. So yeah, automobile industry, I would say, pharma industry, I would say, fashion industry, as you mentioned, a lot of different industries trying to move towards how do you recommend better, how do you make sustainable products better. All of these areas, I think, are still exploring, but would be a boom maybe in the coming future.
Right.
Yeah.
There is this, I think, company based out of some country in Europe called DeepMinds, which is in collaboration with Google, I guess. So they are working towards building reinforcement learning models. So they came up with a model which will learn by itself around
Hmm.
about $2, right?
Correct.
Done a lot of research towards reinforcement learning algorithms, made a computer learn playing a video game is something that they have done through
Oh.
watching the video game, not actually learning from playing the video game, just by watching it, right?
Okay.
These kind of new things are coming in, which seems like a good potential, which have a lot of potential of
Hmm.
sustainability from the healthcare side and from other aspects of the business as well.
I agree, 100%. Very interesting. I think the last thing that I knew was we were making them play chess with us. But yeah, I think another advancement in terms of reinforcement learning. Cool. All right. So, considering the hype around the buzz of data science, Himanshu, do you think this field might become oversaturated at some point of time? Do you see the jobs growing in the foreseeable future, or do you think we might just, tech might take our jobs? What do you think?
I think tech will take the jobs. It might be possible that our roles might change a bit, our responsibilities might change a bit, but at the end of the day, the bottom line would be to optimize the business or optimize a process through data would be our baseline job. Even if the tools that we know of as of today might change, we might have a drag drop kind of a thing instead of coding in Python, but ultimately we have to get our hands dirty, we have to get the insights, we have to implement those insights into betterment of the business.
Correct. So, but do you think the amount of demand that we have and the the people going towards it, the supply, at some point of time there is going to be a lot of supply and then the demand is still going to go down? Do you think that might happen?
I don't see that happening in next 5 years at least, because though I understand a lot of students have started adopting for this field, but
Mm.
the business itself are looking out for a lot of people who can solve business problems through data. So they want someone who has expertise in data as well as business. So I
Mm.
think data science perspective, if you want to sustain in this career for a longer period of time, you need to upskill towards the business as well.
Mm.
Moreover, quantity of data is also increasing, so it will actually uh, create different kind of problems for data scientists. How to harness insights from this much amount of data in an optimized manner would be the next question for us, right? So our efforts might change from data cleaning to processing to modeling. It might be possible that will be spending like 5% of our times into modeling, but overall structure of data science as a role or as a job will remain the
Fine.
same.
Yes, right. Right. I personally think that the use of data for decision making is not a trend. I would say it's a common sense practice that is around to stay. Like no matter what you call, maybe tomorrow you might not call it data analysis, data science or something. You might call it, something more fancy or something more glorified. But I don't see it going anytime soon. It's more, taking a informed decision. When you try to take an informed decision, you need to back your decisions with data, the facts, the presence of the artifacts and the truth of the data. So I don't think that might go away. The trend might still be there, but I think there would be eventually two types of data scientists or data science domains. I would say would be one type would be very business focused, like they're very proficient at different types of tools. So in my mind there would be like tools that maybe you could build AI solutions by drag and drop, like low code, no code. So they are really phrased data science, but building models, maybe they can run experiments and infer insights. Like all right, your now data shows that uh, as you mentioned the earlier example, that a particular region in India might not be that well or recognized for doing business, but maybe through your data, you just set up, just for your hypothesis testing, you did some a small scale setup there and it actually worked out. So now what do you infer out of it? Do you still take a decision? Do you not take a decision? Do you take a decision? At what level of scale do you take it? Do you just like altogether create a large scale plant and chalo laga diya Tata ka ek plant us side pe? Or do you actually take in a small plant and you see how it works and then you then jump on and large scale it out? So I would say it's more of the other kind would be business focused, and I would say the other type would be research heavy, like the maths, the engineering side. So in my mind, they are like a group of problem solvers who might develop more algorithms or who might develop a better algorithms that might solve altogether different problems. Like when we started learning R, we were coding out a lot of different, like we were while merging different data sets or while doing while tidying the data or something, we used to write a full-fledged functional codes, right? Like the functions and different operations. Now it's just about binding using tidyverse and just binding and you are done with the manipulation of the data. So eventually the life gets easier, but for sure if you know the background and if you know what's the behind the scenes, it's always going to help us with a better research. So eventually these roles would be very clear and they might be very demarcated, but it's not something that I see it going for sure. It's something that people would adopt more. In fact, if there are few industries who are still not explored, but are still aware of the buzzword, they would still want to set their foot there and see how it works for them, right?
That will happen.
Right. So I think that gets us to the fun part of the session, that is the Q&A. So we have a lot of our folks who needs, who have a lot of burning questions for you, Himanshu. So, guys, feel free to jump in, post in your question and answer questions. We'll try to answer as much as we can. Meanwhile, Himanshu, we get our questions. Very out of the rut question for you. What do you like spend your time doing? Most of the time, other than when you're not working, what do you do primarily?
I think in a startup, job takes a lot of time, a lot of time from your day. But amid COVID, a lot of things change. You get a bit better lifestyle or work-life balance now.
That's true. Yeah, thanks to COVID.
Yeah. So from that, I realized that. So one thing that I realized last summer was a lot of people were approaching me on LinkedIn to say, "How do I start my journey in data science?" Given
Hmm.
I don't have any background in technical skills, right? For them, it becomes challenging. Definitely, even it was challenging for me at that point of time when there was scarcity of resources, right? Today, there is
Hmm.
another problem. You have a lot of resources. You don't understand what to read and what not to.
Right, it's an ocean there. Right.
So I think I answered a lot of people how to first infer that you actually like the field. How do
Hmm.
you wherever industry you're working in or whatever domain you have some knowledge about, learn about the use cases or the applications of data science so far. If
Hmm.
that makes you be in this field, then we can think of rest of the aspects. You should first learn about the data, then learn about how modeling helps in data scientists in terms of how the application part works for machine learning. And once you get those skills, then you get into behind the scenes, how model works, how the optimization occurs, how hyperparameter tuning occurs, or what kind of different models, how they behave differently, what are the underlying mathematics of those models, right?
Hmm.
But so from all this question and answers, I realized that there's still need for someone to guide these people through the process, the initial hurdle of how to get started. For that, I started my Instagram page a year back, where we are trying to do some fun stuff which people can scroll over on
Relate.
Instagram. We're
Yeah.
going to provide like a very uh, hardcore mathematic book. We are just giving the learnings that we had so far in the industry. And
Hmm.
if you feel like these posts are making you get into data science, then you can either message me to understand what is the process, or you can learn from whatever I have posted. I keep on posting that if you are a very new to the industry or very new to the this role, then these are the important aspects of data science that you should learn.
Hmm.
And we also started a kind of YouTube channel where we started talking to some of the people who got into masters in data science in US and UK. So we started talking to them what were the skills required, or how did you manage to land a master's program, given you don't have a technical background or not the engineering background in this field, right?
Correct. Correct. Hmm.
We also talked with a lot of industry experts on how other people, non-technical people, can get into this field. So that was completely talks from non-technical background people for non-technical students.
Yeah, interesting. That's a lot of fun stuff that you do there, Himanshu.
Thank you.
Right. So we have a lot of questions coming in. Anushka asks, data science and a developer career, which one is a better and trending?
I don't think it would be right to compare these two
Absolutely, it's not fair on any grounds. Yeah.
because they both have different kind of motivation towards what you are doing. As a developer, you are solving the problems through code, you are doing the backend part, right? you are designing better websites, right? But data science is more on getting the insights from the data. Both have been the crucial roles for startups and the established companies.
Hmm.
It's up to you which makes you take more, and that career choice you can make among them.
Right, right. So Piyush asks, can I ask company mathematics question in interview? And yes, it should, what should be the coverage?
uh,
Um,
can
yeah,
I
Piyush, do you mean you want to ask the interviewer, or is it you are expecting? We'll get to that again. All right. What to do? Viral asks what to do build more statistics knowledge.
Okay, so if you have come across a lot of statistics course like me and didn't learn anything from them, there is this book by actuaries who are very much more skilled in statistics than all of us. They, in their own actuarial, when they are students, then when they are studying actuary, they have this book which is more towards statistics and insurance. And I found this book very easy to learn from because they are giving you practical examples of the utilization of each and every aspect of stats. And generally the books skip over that part and they just keep on throwing the content at you or the topics at you. So until unless you don't have the application sitting right next to the topic that you are learning, you won't be able to grasp a lot more from stats.
Right, right. Application is very important to feel, you study about type 1, type 2 errors, unless you don't actually see it applying, or don't you feel like connecting it to the real world, you might lose touch.
Right.
Right, right.
Same way, like I learned what hypothesis testing is, right? But I never bothered about it much until unless I came across A/B testing framework. When I'm designing the framework, I realize I need a lot more expertise from the background of the stats in order to design a better experimentation platform.
Hmm. Right. So, Mohammed Sharik asks, I have a question that when we work on real-time problems, do we follow traditional approach? That is, for this, I had done this earlier, or we always oriented towards optimized solution irrespective of approach.
Okay. So whenever you are approaching a problem, always break it into the steps, because if you're trying to have the best accurate model in the first go, it will take months before you make any model live. So when you are, at least in the startups where every decision make an impact on the businesses, you divide your problem into subparts. Like first version should be simple enough to take it live to understand the impact of the solution that you created, and then you can build on top of the first version, keep on changing the versions and taking it live. But do not delay the evaluation of the impact just because you want to get the uh, better metric, better accuracy for your model. So that's one thing which I have learned the hard way. I waited like 6 months before taking first model live, and it burned me. It burned me to that level that uh,
Mm.
I, I was not sure what to do now. If the model is not working in the right direction, you have to go back to the scratch and start working on a different solution. So come up with a solution, first version of the solution, implement it, see how it impacts, then revise the solution. Meanwhile, you can keep on building the machine learning models parallelly. When you feel like you have a optimum accuracy, you can replace the first version with the newer version any day.
Right. Versioning is always a better option, always. And, I think GitHub actually helps us to maintain that. So good for all
Right.
of us. So, Himanshu, you mentioned a book, and a lot of people are interested in the book. Could you help us with the name or any writer? If you could put it in the chat, that would be great. All right. So, getting back to Piyush's question, does interviewer ask mathematics-based questions in the interview? If yes, what should be the coverage?
Okay. So generally, what I have seen, or what I ask in the interview questions is more around the application part of machine learning.
Hmm.
Once I realized that people have enough skill to make a solution through modeling, then I get into the modeling part. And when you are talking about any kind of models, you definitely should have answer why you chose a particular model. Like
Hmm.
if you feel like some certain data set might contain an outlier and you are not sure about it, you will probably go for a tree-based model because they are not very impactful with the outliers in comparison to your linear regression, right?
Hmm.
So you need to know the classes of models that you want to implement and why you want to implement. When it comes to mathematics, generally people ask what is the cost function for a particular algorithm, and that you need to know because in a lot of cases you might have to change it from what you get from standard models. I'll give you an example. Tree-based learning models, you can only fit a normal distribution, right? But let's say your data doesn't follow a normal distribution, and by any transformation it does not become a normal distribution, right? So let's say it follows some exponential or a gamma distribution. In that scenario, you need to have skills to change the cost function or the objective function in such a way that it uh, learns from your data, right? So that's what we look at when we ask mathematical side, though it happens very occasionally, but it can happen for at least easy models like linear regression, logistic regressions. These are two important algorithms which create the baselines for the other algorithms, and
Hmm.
you need to know at least the mathematics of these two algorithms.
Right, right. I agree. All right. Mukesh asks, account of finance domain skills. What data science shift will benefit?
Accounts and finance domain skills.
Finance domain skills. Uh,
How data science shift will benefit. Okay. uh,
I Yeah, I
yeah.
don't think there's a clear answer to this. There's any biased answer to this. Definitely, accounts has been into picture and will be in the picture for a long time. I think a lot of tools, TurboTax, a lot of tools have come in to, to help automate the tasks in accounts. But finance itself is a very broad industry, that includes the financial institutions, that includes the banking, that includes insurance. A lot of different domains come under a broader umbrella of finance. It just opens up more gateways for you, as compared to when we talk about accounts. There's no comparison, I would say. There's no apple to apple comparison here. So yeah, what do you think, Himanshu?
Yeah, makes sense.
Right. All right. So Kedar Patil asks, can you explain the tool-wise weightage to learn data science, which will give idea about industry insights or any other tips from your side, where to focus upon?
Could you repeat that question once?
All right. So Kedar asks, can you explain the tool-wise weightage to learn data science, which will give idea about industry insights?
uh,
Um,
I
yeah.
don't think there are tools to understand the industry or
Right.
domain
Hmm.
experts, but
Hmm.
uh, generally understand what that domain use as a tech stack and go over from that direction. That if a company, if you are if you want to work for a banking company, they would probably use R programming much more than Python, even though it's fine whichever you want to use. But if you know R programming, you could leverage that in a financial company than working for an e-commerce company, because e-commerce company would definitely be working on Python, right? So you
Hmm.
can pick your battles, pick your domains based on your expertise in the tools. You can think of SQL, right? SQL can be done on your Postgres SQL, right? Or it can be done on cluster in Hadoop cluster as well, right? So the technical skills doesn't change much even though the infrastructure changes behind the scenes. All you need to do is understand the basics of it, and you will be able to adapt to any kind of new tool or technology coming in.
Right, right. Mahi asks, does a data scientist need to be better at statistics than a software engineer?
Definitely. So from a data science perspective, you need to be better at statistics because
Mm.
I'll share one case with you, right? Let's say you build a model to understand the risk of a customer from the finance perspective. Okay, you have built this model and you do not even understand the distribution of customer age in India. Let's say you utilize the data from US to build this model and you are implementing this model in India. Now the age distribution is quite different, and what your model has learned is more about the distribution of US than in India, right? Your model will go haywire in predictions for Indian market, and you won't even be able to understand where you went wrong because you have done everything by the book as per the data scientist, right?
Hmm.
So there is a concept called drift in the data. You understand how the distribution of a particular variable changes over time, and that if you are able to understand the drift in the data, you will be able to understand when you want to revisit the model, retrain the model. So generally, people just fly out numbers like will retrain the model every 2 months. It doesn't come that way. It comes from the drift. If your business is quite stable, it doesn't change much over 6 months or a year. You won't require to retrain the model. But if
Hmm.
you are a startup where your market keeps on changing every other day, you might want to retrain the model every month. So these kind of statistical insights are quite important from a data science perspective than a developer.
Hmm. Right, right. So Bharat asks how data science is used in health insurance sector. Bharat, I think a lot of different use cases. The top that I think can come up from my mind is, the detection of the fraudulent claims, or, personalized marketing strategies and targeting specific customer groups. Say, you already have customers buying in insurance policy A, and you also want them to lure in to get in, cross sell, maybe insurance policy B. So different marketing strategies and different techniques that you apply to target these folks, influencing the customer behavior, the lifetime value prediction of a customer, claims prediction. If you as a company can crack that as an insurance sector, I think it would be. I think, Himanshu, you would agree there that we've solved all the problems. Like if we understand the claim amount that is going to come up, we will just our underwriters and our all of the different folks would just have a easier life overall.
Right, definitely. Moreover, new technologies like your Fed bands are coming into the picture, right? So if you access that data, or the company provides technology for you to wear, you will definitely get those data points as well. So that will make your job much more difficult in order to assess the risk on the daily basis, because for each person you will have the information of every hour what that person does, right? So finding out the patterns or finding out the risk of the health will become quite difficult because it will be a huge amount of data.
Hmm. Right. So, very, very interesting questions that we're getting. So one is, Hari Kiran asks, hi, Manchu sir. I thought to become a data scientist after 12th, and as a career counselor suggested, I have taken BSc in maths, statistics, and computer science. But later he realized coding is not his area of interest and left thinking like data science is all about it. But now he feels like joining back into data science. Will his coding skills are very bad, and I'm an average student. Can I make into data science if I work hard?
I think if you know mathematics and stats, you can make into data science. You can choose your battles again. You might not want to get into Python, which is hardcore coding. You might want to learn R programming. You can do the same amount of work with lesser number of lines or the codes you want to write. It's much easier. It's not a kind of a script that you write. It's more of a write a single line,
Hmm.
right? So you would or you can go with I think SAS also works in the same direction where you don't have to code much, but SAS requires other skill set altogether. So I would think R programming is where you can excel. Given you have a background in stats, it would be easier for you to analyze the data. All you need is just one tool. You can do the same kind of things with maybe Tableau. Tableau is another good tool to do the
Yeah.
analysis.
Yeah.
It's a very drag drop kind of a software and give good insights.
Very smart, intuitive results. Right. But overall, I think majorly, Manchu, people want to know and understand what is the weightage of coding in the entire profile.
I think data scientists are not known for writing the most optimized code. Uh,
Right. Right.
I would say it's more derived from Google search than writing our own codes, because these libraries keep on changing a lot, and their way of working also changes a lot. So we keep on doing Google for this kind of thing. Uh, it becomes important in data wrangling, which can be somewhere reduced through using Tableau kind of softwares where you don't have to code to just go through the data. You can do all the analysis in Tableau, and then you move into Python or R. You just write the code to build the model and evaluate its accuracy. I think that's not a very big chunk. Given 5 years back, it was just Python or Python programming or R programming to do the whole work. So there are tools that mitigate a lot of programming things in the profile.
Right. Right. All right. So a lot of folks coming in from a non-technical fresher have knowledge of like DS tools. So should they like start in the data analytics side, or should they start in the machine learning side? And irrespective of the domain, what should they think they should do?
I think first skill that you need to pick up is any one of the coding tool. You can either go for Python or R, depending on your past experience or your expertise in coding. Because if you are non-technical, then you would definitely want to stick with R programming than Python. And R programming doesn't take much of a time. I think I learned R programming in a week or so. It's readily available tool. The documentation is amazing in itself, right? So once you are done with the tooling part, don't get too deep into the coding. Just learn the basics. Like if you're learning Python, you learn NumPy, pandas, and you are done with it. Don't get into machine learning yet. First learn about the application part in any domain, regardless whether you want to get into that domain or not. You learn how machine learning is helping or solving the business problems or solving a problem in general. So you can go through Kaggle competitions. A lot of competitions give you data. They give you the problem statement, and a lot of people are trying to solve that problem, right? Even if you go through them, you will understand how different tools and techniques were utilized in solving this problem. uh, Once you get that into that, then start solving the problems. Maybe some guided projects you can do. That will help you much more than just learning the skills through videos. So
Right.
hands-on is much better learning experience than just watching the videos.
Right. I think at some point of time you start learning from your peers more as compared to, you start learning from all the different, because at some point of time you've studied everything, but what is new or how do you apply it better? And talking about the coding question again, I would say the good part is we are not expected to code like a software developers, right? We are not expected to always have a complexity of time in the least complexity. Good for us, because again, but as you mentioned, there are easier ways to do the same thing. And I would say I and Himanshu both here are a pro R programmers. We like, irrespective, Python has made its presence, and I like the love that we have for R. I think we started with it because, and we know how easier it was while we slipped in. And although we didn't, you coming from a mechanical background, I coming from not really liking coding, we actually slipped in so easily and we could understand stuff. So I think there are easier ways to do the same thing. It's just that do not complicate yourself. And also, you might never know, the coding rounds or the levels might be so low, or they might be not that high. I would say medium to low levels, that you might be expected to code around and just get your stuff done. The idea is, do you understand the data? Do you understand the intended inline, or do you read between the lines of these data? What does data actually want to say? Is what exactly is what you can do the similar thing. In fact, I would say Excel is the real OG, I would say, in this scenario. You can do all of these things on Excel itself. So it's nothing that you need to know the best level of coding as a software developer might, but it's nice to, have these skills to work your, make your life easier.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Very interesting question from Anmol. I have graduated with MS degree in physics. I am also interested in data science, but I want to use it only in physics related job. All right. So, or in research in physics, or in academia jobs. So, jobs in Amazon, Swiggy, Ola, and other consumer companies doesn't excite me. Okay. I am interested in knowledge expansion, like particle physics. Can you suggest on which domains or companies I should look for?
I doubt that I have a, one particular company in mind which works just for the physics aspect. Uh, but definitely, a lot of universities do a research on this
Right.
part. Because, your dark matter, your string theory, all these requires a lot of pattern recognition from the data. If you want to get in, yeah, I think the best way you can be in this field is through doing a master's or a PhD or some project under a professor who deals with the core problem statements in physics, or maybe some part of astronomy will also be fruitful for you.
I agree. I agree. A lot of my friends are into the field of physics and, I would say is science, and they do a lot of research. I think the best path for you, Ankush, would be eventually do not look in for consumer companies, but also like try to look in for in universities or research that happen around a lot around these areas, and they require folks like you to get in and get your hands dirty around. So I
Right.
think all of these areas might help you. Ankush asks, he has a career gap in 3 years career gap preparing for data science. I'm sure you were not preparing just for data science for these 3 years, Ankush. He's done 2 internship in data science domain and also worked on some projects. How is this career gap of 3 years impact on my job opportunities, and how can I explain this to the companies, and what should I do for this whole scenario? I
I
think
Yeah, I don't think it matters a lot that you have a career gap. It doesn't impact your interview skills or the skills that you have for the role. I remember one of my friend from college took a career gap of 6 years just to prepare for something else, and then came back into data science. The major thing was he knew the field. He has done some projects in that, and if you have a caliber to learn on the job, I think people would be happy. People would definitely take you in. Then people who are coming with everything. If the person has all the skill set, then it might become difficult to give him a role which is more up to his alley, because he has done a lot of things, whereas a person who has limited skills and not done much work, he might be willing to learn a lot more about the business perspective.
I agree. I think plus you've done 2 internships in the data science domain. That is always going to give you an extra added edge because you other than the the normal learning, people might do courses on their own. People might do courses by cheating the test and all. But you've actually done something in the field and you've done something in from a practical point of view. I think that's just going to give you an added edge altogether.
Right.
So yeah, he also asked, I want to also know that will companies recognize me if I start applying to jobs? Yeah, absolutely. You need to be start applying at every possible way.
Right.
All
And
right.
constrain yourself towards just doing data science. Even if it's an analytics job, I don't see any difference between the two, because they both have almost similar kind of skill set apart except for machine learning, and you will learn a lot in that role as well.
Absolutely. So overall, for folks who have questions around, they have a gap and they need to, will they still be, a possible or a good candidate? Sure, they are. And I think this should answer your question that, irrespective of the career gaps, irrespective of anything, if you have a strong portfolio to show people that, you've done something and you've been really passionate about it, I don't think there is any denial, there is any degree or there is any particular I would say, tier one expectations from you, right?
I There's no coursework around data science yet, right? People are not
Right.
you learning from your own or from a courseware and then coming to the companies, right?
Hmm.
You also know that you have done your own work and you learn at your own pace, given it doesn't have a standard syllabus to learn from.
Right.
That's not what the
Correct.
expectations have from the company perspective as well.
Right. I think we've majorly answered a lot of questions. I think also we are across time. So overall, I think it was great. I hope this workshop help you guys think about the future of data science and how to approach data science in a different way. I would definitely encourage you to do your own research and about this topic. Do what is right for your career. You can definitely reach out to mentors, folks, and the people are there to help you. Like, they are there. It's just that the if you ask it in the right way, if you post it in a right way and you ask for help, people are out there. Because as just Himanshu mentioned, there is no proper structured program. For better or for worse, it's a good thing for us as a data scientist. From any field you can just step in and have a knack for it. So I would say research on your own, talk to folks, do not harass them, just talk and have a clear ask. As in, what do you want from your LinkedIn when you post out a message, or something from when you post out in a networking site? So yeah, overall, I think this kind of helped us to understand a stance in how data science would continue growing. And I and Himanshu here is, we absolutely love this field, and we are excited to see it continue growing in every field and in a more sustainable way, as we might have seen earlier. So yeah, thank you so much for joining in, Himanshu. I think I actually learned quite a bit today, and I'm happy we could discuss this, entire topic in length.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, actually, it kind of gives us, a different perspective, different direction. And thank you so much, guys. They were amazing questions. I hope we could answer most of them. And yeah, see you guys next week. Happy learning and happy weekend. Bye bye.